shifting gears a little bit, I'd love to talk about the grant that you received from Mackenzie Scott and her yield giving foundation, and which is just amazing. And I understand typically it's not something you apply for, but you know they look at they do background research on not for profits that are doing amazing work, and then suddenly you receive this grant. So congratulations on that. That's amazing. So what does that mean for the lab, and what do you do with something like that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we first of all, we were so grateful to Mackenzie Scott and the Yield Giving Foundation that has we announced it publicly, so I'll say we received $6 million of
Wow.
unrestricted funding, which was the largest unrestricted single grant that we've ever received. And it very quickly accelerated, so for me as CEO, we've got some financial goals, and one of our goals is over time, you build up your reserve
Hmm.
of unrestricted funds, which gives you some more cushion to do a few different things, which I'll mention. Uh, and so first of all, it accelerated that a lot. So
Hmm.
it gives us some breathing room and opportunity to kind of explore and take risks at a in a way that we otherwise uh, we might have like waited
Yeah.
uh, uh, longer to find external funding. And when I say wait, I mean work and beat the pavement and try to find external funding for something that we know is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'll give you one example of that, which is with our growth engine work. That's part of our college transformation uh, uh, capability at the lab. So we've built over 300 micro pathways with now working with close to 100 colleges at this point. And uh, the first cohorts of colleges, I mean, everybody who's done this work has continued on with it, which has been great.
Right.
And some of them have said, this was so successful within our organization that we want to go deeper. We've been talking about, our strategic plan and what we want our strategic planning process to include. And they've come back and said, we want you guys in that process. So, because they realize now if you're creating a new category of credential, it's really a new category of market that you're going after. And in some of these places, 50% of the folks that are enrolling with them are coming from some sort of alternative direction than the traditional. So, and when you think about traditional enrollments declining, there's one group we were talking about the other day. Traditional enrollments are declining, but the this credential kind of micro pathway style stuff is growing anywhere from 20 to 40% a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So all of a sudden people are like, oh, maybe this is strategic. So what is our plan around it? And what is it that we have to, like, why do we have to work with the lab before in order to even do this? And the answer is that just not organized to to shuffle everything around. And the way that we get folks to shuffle things around is we say, let's find a transcendent purpose, which is the learner, right? What is the learner's journey? How do we empathize with the learner and the learner's need? And then, and that's on one side of the equation. And then the other side of the equation is employers, because if employers are not engaged, then it doesn't really matter. So what do employers need in our region?
Hmm.
How do we work more effectively with them? And then it starts to suggest, well, how do you actually staff your organization differently so that you have better connectivity with learners, better connectivity with employers, and where faculty and program designers are working together with new sets of goals beyond the academic goals that really are helping learners. So they came to us with all that. That's we're out there now starting to look for funding to get that going.
Mm.
But there's a half dozen of them who said, we love that and we're ready now.
Yeah.
So, we're able to sort of, begin that process a little sooner than we would have otherwise, and do it in earnest. And, so we're not leaving people out hanging. But, we do need to continue to raise money and support programs like this. Um, having the starter dough, the seed
Yeah.
to be able to do that, the working capital that we can borrow from, and our goal is really to treat it like a bit of an investment fund, to invest in projects that we think others are going to fund, but we want to basically seed it and then replenish and grow, and that allows us to continue to stay a bit ahead of the curve, continue to take a little bit more risk, um, so that we don't get sort of slowed down by the vagaries of the funding cycle, things like that.
Which is so important these days. Is with AI, and you flag no conversation can go by without mentioning AI. It obviously is having a massive
Yes.
impact on the economy, on businesses, on individuals, right? So there's that question of
Yeah.
threats to
And
their jobs and opportunities. Yeah.
exactly. And you mentioned our mutual friend Don Frazier before, and Don about a year ago, a little over maybe a year and a half ago now, uh, came to me and started talking about AI and his interest, and he said, "Well, why don't we try this or that?" We got together as a leadership team and agreed that we can't go into this year without making a commitment to building our own capabilities in AI. So we were able to, and we did this even before the Mackenzie Scott money, but we made an investment in training the entire staff on AI. The Mackenzie Scott money made that a less of a perilous, heart palpitating thing. So, but investing so that now we have projects that we do where traditional research approaches pale in comparison to ones that can be done, with AI. We're able to do a lot more in interviews like this, automatically transcribe, automatically process and analyze, find trends, things like that. We can look at, new concepts like we do a lot of persona work where the
Yeah.
purpose of the persona is to have the intentions and the experience and the situation of end users, of new majority learners, stars, be represented in the design process. And we see opportunities even for AI to support that. And then I had mentioned before, there's places where whether it's improving the learning experience or an assessment experience, or um, even translation experience for, of skills from,
Mm.
there's a project with a group called Astrum U that we pioneered a year ago, that I know about automating the reading of military records, for example, and having those translate directly into wallets. So yeah, so that's a big deal, and there's going to be a lot more, be a ton more. And the other thing about AI, so that's all the good. Here's what's possible side,
Right.
and then it's sort of like, oh yeah, we invented gunpowder, hooray! And three people come back with their hands blown off, right? So it's like, okay, maybe we need to have some rules and some guidelines and some safety around this.
Mm.
And I mean, it's a serious, serious, serious issue, because it's not, AI, unlike gunpowder, people are not explosive themselves. They can have explosive personalities, but they themselves don't.
Yeah.
But human beings are being imitated and replicated, and aspects of human
Yes.
experience are being imitated and replicated by AI. So, and AI doesn't even, the fuel for AI is us,
Mm.
right?
Right.
It gets no smarter than what we allow it to get, right? So if we decide that we want to allow AI to read all of our books, to read all of my content, to read my movements, around the planet, then it's going to get smarter about all those things. And I don't own the system that all that stuff goes into. So someone does.
Right, right.
Some entity does. So we've got to sort of figure out, uh, how all that stuff works, and what does it mean to be a human in this age of AI. We actually, to that end, the other thing that Don did was he started a Humans of AI, um,
Yeah.
which is, there was Humans of New York, published by the New York Times. Well, we have a set of interviews, and we're continuing to do them and push them out on a periodic basis, of just ordinary people in all walks of life, from like students to people working to, we had Paul LeBlanc. We did an interview
Hmm.
with, last week. I think we published it. The former, kind of legendary president of Southern New Hampshire University,
Yeah.
and other innovators. And you'll see more. I met some folks this past weekend at a reunion event, for my school, and they've sort of said they're interested. But it's this aspect of how are you human in the world of AI? What does it mean, to kind of find your place there? And in some ways, how can we leverage AI, but how do we protect folks? And we're particularly careful and focused on protecting the interests of the new majority learner. So how do we make sure that, that AI and its adoption is safe,
Hmm.
uh, for everyone, especially them, because they often, don't have someone at the table advocating for their interests.
Right, right. Wow, well, that's, yeah, such important work, Bill. So thank you for that.